The purpose of the bill, Alaska and Court, is to establish on a statutory basis a cross-border crime agency. The agency will draw from specified security, taxation and environmental authorities from both our state and Northern Ireland. Its remit will cover organised criminal activity in the border region and fuel smuggling. The bill covers the establishment of an agency composed of a Director-General and 8 officers drawn from specific authorities. The structure of this cross-border agency would enable the appointment of the Director-General, and it also details the 8 designated officers of the agency, 4 officers to be appointed by the Minister for Justice, including an officer from the Environmental Protection Agency, an officer from the Office of the Revenue Commissioners, a Chief Superintendent nominated by the Garda Commissioner, an officer from the Criminal Assets Bureau. Another 4 would be appointed on the recommendation of the Minister for Justice for Northern Ireland or the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland if the Northern Ireland Executive is not in place. And that would include an officer from the Northern Ireland Environmental Protection Agency, an officer from Northern Ireland's Revenue Commissioners, a Chief Superintendent from the Police Service of Northern Ireland, an officer from the National Crime Agency. The legislation also specifies the functions of the agency. It details its remit over organised criminal activity, illicit trade, human trafficking and fuel smuggling in the border region. The section also empowers the agency to receive relevant information from the police force in our state and in Northern Ireland. The section also details the requirement to publish an annual report and lay it before the houses of the Oireachtas. It also specifies a requirement for the Director-General to appear before the relevant Oireachtas committee when requested. The border area, I believe, needs a focused agency to stamp out crime. Recent deplorable incidents, which are discussed in this House with Minister Flanagan on a number of occasions, including attacks on persons and property, and indeed the recent very sinister development of cross-border involvement in devastating human trafficking, show that cross-border criminality is escalating. The Cross-Border Organised Crime Threat Assessment 2018, produced jointly by the PSNI and Garda Síochána, shows the scale and changing nature of cross-border crime. Brexit represents a new challenge to the 224-mile border and the distinct security threats in the area. We need a fresh focus on tackling cross-border criminality. The bill, I believe, would strengthen, expand and formalise the existing cross-border crime task force, which does not have a set staff or legislative powers. The new agency would be composed of officers from police forces, both North and South, Revenue, Criminal Assets Bureau, EPA and their northern equivalents. It would be headed by a Director-General, as I mentioned earlier, with dedicated staff. The recent British-Irish Parliamentary Assembly report on cross-border crime noted there had been an increase in the number of criminal groups with cross-border operations in the last 5 years, rising from approximately 1 in 5 groups in 2014 to 1 in 3 in 2018. The current task force needs to be strengthened with clear powers and dedicated staff. Currently, it is organised on an ad hoc basis with no full-time staff. Only 2 reports on the work of the agency have been issued due to the collapse of Stormont in January 3 years ago. This simply isn't good enough. I believe that this bill will ensure that we have the tools in place to tackle the changing nature of the criminal threat in the border area. Thank you, Alaska and Corla.